Something sweet is rising through a crack in the stone floor, and she's breathing it in. Her spine snaps rigid, her hands shake. She folds forward over the bronze tripod, and behind her eyes, the gods start to move. And in the dark behind her, a man leans in, holding his breath. A war, a throne, everything he came for hangs on whatever this trembling woman is about to gasp up out of the crack in the floor. Before all this, she was nobody. A baker's daughter from the village down in the valley, flour dried into the creases of her arms. No noble blood, no visions. Then the priest came for her. She tells them they've made a mistake. She can't read. She's never once seen the future, not in a dream, not for a heartbeat. They just nod. That, they tell her, is exactly why it has to be her. At first light, they take her up. The path claws its way up Mount Parnassus, switchback after switchback, her calves burning until the village is just a gray smudge on the valley floor below. Then the path bends, and there it is. Delphi, whole temples cut into the sheer face of the cliff, stacked one above the next. This place, the priests say, is the navel of the world, the exact center of everything that is. Higher still stands the Temple of Apollo, and from its black doorway, a thin ribbon of smoke is bleeding out into the daylight. On the steps outside, men are waiting. Envoys in heady cloaks, a king's seal pressed in wax, gold heaped up as offerings, all of them here for one voice, and soon that voice is supposed to be hers. A priest takes her by the arm and walks her past all of them through the tall doors into a cool dark that smells of laurel smoke and cold stone. Behind her, the noise of the crowd thins to nothing. Then the floor opens. Narrow steps drop into a hidden room beneath the temple, the Eideton, where a tall bronze tripod stands straddling a crack in the bare rock. And out of that crack, something sweet is drifting up toward her. By the tripod stands a frail old woman, the priestess who came before her. The god will fill you with a breath from below, she says. Then softer, almost to herself, some who go down here don't come back up quite the same. The old woman helps her up onto the tripod, her legs spread over the crack. She breathes in, and the sweet air tilts the whole chamber sideways, the walls sliding, her own voice suddenly strange and far away, like it belongs to someone across the room. At the edge of the room, priests crouch with styluses ready, scratching down every broken word she spills. She won't remember a single one, but outside, men are already chiseling them into stone. Word of her spreads. A king named Croesus of Lydia, the richest man alive, sends caravans of gold up the mountain to ask her one question: should he march his army east against Persia? Her ravings come back as a riddle. Cross the river, it says, and a great empire will fall. Croesus crosses, grinning, sure of his victory. The empire that falls is his own. Then Athens comes to her, terrified, a Persian army eating its way across Greece. Her breath tells them to trust their wooden walls. Not the wooden fence around the city, one man insists. The ships. She means the ships. Fleets put to sea on her word. Colonists sail off toward coastlines she will never lay eyes on, betting their lives on what she mutters in the dark. And some nights she feels the weight of it settle on her and wonders whose voice is really climbing out of her throat. It's you. Centuries later, a priest named Plutarch serves in the same temple, and something is wrong. The sweet breath that rises from the rock is thinner now, weaker. Some mornings he kneels by the crack and there's nothing there at all. He digs back through the oldest records, hunting for an answer. Where did the breath come from? What even was it? And nobody knows. It's fading out from under their feet, and not one priest alive can say what they've been breathing all these years. He turns to the very oldest entry, the day the richest king came to test her. Far away, Croesus of Lydia asks what he is doing at that exact moment. She names it, a tortoise boiling in a bronze pot. Then he asks the real question, should he march on Persia? Her answer will outlive them both. Cross the river, and you will destroy a great empire. So he crosses. The empire that falls is his own. Decades later, a Persian army pours down toward Athens. The whole city crams into her temple, begging for a way to survive. And through the smoke, she gives them a riddle. Trust your wooden walls. Wooden walls? Some say she means a wooden fence. Pile up the timber and hold. But one man swears she means ships, and he bets the whole city on it. They meet the Persians at Salamis, and they win. A riddle out of the smoke just saved Greece. She can barely remember opening her mouth. Empires rise and fall on words she doesn't feel are hers, and lying awake she wonders. A god in her throat? Some drug in the air? A trick? Or is she just going mad? Centuries on, Plutarch bends down over that same crack. The sweet breath barely answers him now. A trace, then gone. He's certain it was real once. He just can't say what it was or where it's going. He dies without ever knowing. And when archaeologists finally dig down under the temple, looking for that famous chasm, there's nothing. No crack, no gas, bare rock, as if the breath had never been there at all. So climb up onto the tripod yourself. The air here is sweet, sickly sweet, and warm against your face. The floor begins to tilt under you. You open your mouth to speak, and the voice that comes out is not yours. For decades, that empty dig was the end of it. No chasm, no gas, just clever theater. Then one geologist walks the ruins asking a different question. Not where is the crack, what's underneath it? And the answer is, down in the bedrock. 2 living fault lines run straight through Delphi, one east to west, one north to south, and they cross at a single point, right under the temple floor. Below that crossing sits a layer of oily, bituminous limestone. The grinding of the faults heats it, and the warm rock breathes out gas. Light hydrocarbons rising up through the fracture into her little stone room. Ethylene! Ethane! Methane! Ethylene. Faintly sweet on the tongue. Decades from now, surgeons will drip it into patients as an anesthetic. But breathe thin like this, it doesn't put you under. It lifts you up, euphoric, floating, cut loose from your own body. That was the god in her throat, not Apollo, just a whisper of gas leaking out of the rock, and she breathed it in day after day, the one person in the world who could never have known what it was. So sit where she sat. The bronze is cold under you, the crack breathes up between your feet, and that sweetness in the air, you've noticed it before you even decided to. It thickens. The floor tips at an angle that isn't really there. Your tongue goes loose, and your own voice reaches you from somewhere across the room, and you would swear on your life it isn't yours. Now lift the whole temple away in your mind. 2 faults cross in the rock right beneath your seat. The Delphi fault running east, the Kurna fault cutting down across it. Where the 2 grind against each other, they crack open a seam of oily limestone, and it leaks. Gas climbs the fracture straight up into your lungs. Ethylene, ethane, methane, that is what you're breathing. No god, just a sweet-smelling anesthetic, bleeding up out of a crack in the ground, and for 1,000 years, kings gambled their empires on what that gas did to one woman's blood. But there's a problem the geologists still can't shake. Sample that vapor today, and the ethylene barely shows up at all, far too thin to lift anyone off the ground, so the case isn't closed. And the argument still isn't settled. Others say it was never ethylene that lifted her. Maybe ethane, maybe methane, maybe a vent far too weak to have ever mattered. 2,000 years later, and we still can't fully name what she breathed. If the corners of history your teachers skipped over are your kind of thing, that's exactly what this channel is for. Her kind couldn't last forever. Around the year 393, the Emperor Theodosius bolted the pagan temple shut, and the voice on the tripod fell silent for good. 1,000 years of kings had gambled, wars, gold, whole empires, all of it on one woman breathing over a crack in the rock, and not a single one of them ever knew. She died never knowing either. To her, to all of them, the god was real. Because the earth itself was breathing, and no one alive yet had the words for what that meant. Then, centuries after her last breath, a geologist knelt by the spring below the ruins and finally gave the thing a possible name. Ethylene, a sweet gas rising off the fault. If a hallucinating priestess breathing gas out of a crack in the earth is your kind of history, subscribe. This whole channel lives down cracks exactly like this one. But the theory has a fault of its own. Measured today, the ethylene comes back faint, in some samples, far too thin to cloud anyone's mind at all. So the argument is still wide open. Maybe it was ethane, maybe methane, maybe the vapor ran far stronger 3,000 years ago, or maybe the crack was never the whole answer. To strip all the science back, and one thing still holds. For 1,000 years the earth exhaled, and kings knelt down before it, and mistook a breathing planet for the voice of a god.